Yes, everybody. Russ and the West Ham Network. Hope you're safe and well. Happy Friday. Well done. Another week has gone. Now this is not a rant. This is more one of my brain dumps, one of my thought pieces. Because, well, I'll say it. I'm glad we're selling Aaron Cresswell. Now that sounds really. I know some people that will sound really harsh. And looking at Twitter, there's a real divide in terms of selling Cress or not selling Cress. Me, I'm glad we're selling Aaron Cresswell. And it's not because of the man, because actually, he's a great servant for the club. He was 9 years, would have been his 10th year, 300, odd games, second in the Premier League appearances to West Ham League after Nobes, obviously. Hammer of the Year, he's won. He's one of the last, it was just him and Oggy left, isn't it? Now, Oggy probably just left in terms of the Upton Park era, obviously with Lanzini leaving as well this summer. But I'm glad we're selling him. And the reason I'm glad we're selling him is, for me, that's a change in mentality. Now, West Ham of old was basically, I saw that when we had the retain list. We gave Cress a new deal. We gave Oggy a new deal. We activated Fabianski's 1 year add-on. We activated Soufal's add-ons as well to his contract. And with the oldest squad in the world, oldest squad in the Premier League, it wasn't going to change because actually three of the oldest players, probably in the Premier League, I'd say, or very close to it, were still playing at West Ham. And that's what we do. That's what we do. It's almost like keep calm and carry on. If it's not broke, don't fix it. And that's not the right mentality. The right mentality should be you look at the bigger clubs, the more successful clubs. They're constantly bringing in new players. They're constantly getting rid of old players. Look at City, for example. The likes of Mahrez going to the Saudi League. You've got, Gundogan's gone. Bernardo Silva's leaving. Jesus left. They're looking to get rid of Kyle Walker. So they're continually changing the squad and upgrading and improving. And that's the mentality you need to be successful. Now, for me, selling Aaron Cresswell, and if it's 2.5 million, 5 million quid, it doesn't really matter. It's the principle behind it. The fact is, we offered him a 1 year deal. He'd have left in the summer anyway next year. I've always said that what they were doing with the contracts with Oggy and that lot, for me, it was almost like they were prolonging it till next year, when maybe Moyes isn't in the dugout anymore. His contract runs out in the summer next year, and for me, it's all about, for him particularly, it's all about this year. And so the Crest deal and Oggy deal were basically sort of keeping the old guard there in case he needs to turn to them. Because when the shit hits the fan, what does he do? He plays Aaron Cresswell, and he plays his generals. And Cress was one of those generals. Potentially would have been probably maybe a one for the club captain potentially. And it sort of it has, although it seemed to have come out of nowhere, this whole Wolves thing, this Cresswell to Wolves thing. For me, clearly this has been probably going around for a couple of weeks at least, because when you listen to Moyes, he was asked a question, I think after the Perth game, about the captainship for this year. He said, "Oh, we haven't come up to a decision." To me, that sounds like someone that Cress was probably nailed on to be club captain, and then maybe a Gerd being team captain or something like that. But there's obviously the Wolves thing. And this to me has got Tim Stein, the whole Cresswell thing has got Tim Steinden's fingers all over it. And I'm all for it, because we know we won't sell him until we got a replacement in, but that replacement will be a young, hungry left fullback. And whether it is Ian Martins from Chelsea, whether it's Truffett, or one of 3 or 4 from League R in terms of left backs, it shows a change in mentality. And that's what really excites me. And I mean, you see how much, until Steinen officially took over, you look at the players we were linked with, and they were all probably, for the now, 28, 29, Polinia, JWP, and I still think there's a role for Polinia to come in because actually he could come in. There's no bidding in period. He hit the ground running because you do need a balance. You can't buy loads of kids and assume they're all going to sort of just adapt magically to the Premier League and to the West Ham style. But the whole thing with Cresswell particularly is what we need. It's refreshing. It's a change. It's out of the old guard. It's a little bit more ruthless, and that's unfortunately how you have to handle it. Now, some people won't agree with it, with loyalty and stuff like that. But football's different now, in my opinion, and it is about being ruthless. It's always about looking to improve the squad. Always looking at not standing still. I think very often we've stood still, and particularly in the transfer window. Particularly being a selling club. Proverbially, you look through some of the players we've sold and what they've gone for. Now, obviously, he should not be named. We said, right, it's going to cost 100 million, 105 million, whatever, and that's what you're going to pay. And they stood by their guns. Fair play to West Ham. They did. And they managed to negotiate, I think, a really good deal for him. You look at Sebastian Haller, literally, like, Ajax we'll pay you 25. Done. They couldn't take him off our hands quick enough. Felipe Anderson, the same. But you look back even further, even before the current regime, you've got the likes of Glenn Johnson, Joe Cole. I mean, they went for peanuts relatively. I mean, Rio went for, was it 18 million quid, which is a relatively large amount. Leeds played him for 18 months and then flipped him for twice the money, didn't they? So we've always been a club that's managed to always undersell our players. And for someone like the Cresswell, West Ham of old would have just let him go. Would have kept him and just seen out his contract. A bit like Lanzini, that's what would have been Lanzini, in all honesty. But actually, we're getting some money out of him, and Cress gets another year on his contract. So, we were only going to offer him 1 year. He wanted 2 years. We offered him 1 year. He signed it, and hopefully, he'll get 2 years. And good luck to him. He's been a fantastic servant. And so for me, this is all got Steinden's fingers all over it, and I'm loving it. We've spoken about this red ball approach for years, and it was almost like it seemed like we were playing lip service to it a little bit. And this is more in line with this red ball approach when it comes to transfers and it comes to recruitment. We want young, we want talented, hungry players, lots of energy, pace. Maybe sort of picked out, spotted, signed, maybe before they get sort of a lot of attraction from elsewhere. So you look at Ian Marston from Chelsea, for example, been on loan 3 years in a row. I want to say Charlton, Coventry, and then last year Burnley. Burnley, he was team of the season in the Championship, despite being a loan player. That's how good he was playing for Burnley. So much so that Burnley obviously want him as well. So that to me shows, it's picking out these players from maybe an area where their pathway to first team football is blocked. At Chelsea, he's got Chilwell in front of him. He's got Cucurella. He's got Lewis Hall. So he's got 3 other players in front of him. So he's not going to get first team football. He's 21. So, for me, perfect move to West Ham or Burnley for him, in terms of being objective with it. Or picking up talent from inferior leagues, which is why you're seeing lots, not inferior, but you're seeing a lot of our transfer targets coming from League R. The likes of Youssef Fofana from Monaco, that's got Steiden's fingers all over it. He's really keen to get getting Fofana in. He's a great player. He's something I think we've missed in terms of that physicality in the midfield. Obviously looking at someone like a Nana, that type of thing, but I think Fofana will be cheaper, and I think there's more development for him in terms of getting into side. He's already a French international as well established, a lot of games for Monaco already. And I could see him, we haven't had that physicality in the midfield, for maybe Alex, no, it was Alex. Cheku Kiarte, but when he first started, very, very physically dominant. And I think that would be a really good signing for us. Now, we know that, as I said, that I think there's a balancing act. We know there's the element of risk when you sign someone like Polinia, for example, or Harry Maguire. The risk isn't there in terms of adapting into the Premier League. They've well established. I mean, JWP, 300, 400 games for Southampton. He knows the Premier League inside out. but the rewards aren't as great as going for an Ian Marston or going for a Fofana, going for someone who's younger, hungrier, and can develop, and then has sell-on value as well. So I'm really excited that we're selling Aaron Cresswell, because that to me shows a change in attitude, a change in straight away, in terms of Cresswell's 33. If we got Ian Marston in, for example, he's 21. Straight away, that's 12 years off our off our total age. Obviously we can't do that really with Oggy this year, but when Oggy goes, we bring in Louise out maybe. Obviously he's been getting game time in the pre-seasons. And then you got Casey as well. You think midfield, he should not be named, goes. Bringing someone like Fofana in. Similar ages, to be honest, but I think a lot more potential in terms of sell-on fees as well. And I'm really glad we're selling Aaron Cresswell. And that sounds really harsh, I know, but that's true. Anyway, let me know what you think. Let me know what you think. I know it's all just me and my brain dumps, but I always love reading your comments, because you've got your own opinions as well. And that's the whole idea of what we do here. It's just about establishing opinions and getting a forum, because it's good to debate. It's good to argue. It's good to have differing opinions. You may have a different opinion. You may be absolutely gutted with selling Cresswell. On that side, there could be less. There's another player with 300 odd appearances who's now not in the side. So that sort of experience is not in the side. Again, one of the last Upton Park people. If he leaves, it's just Oggy left, isn't it? I think so. There's that, but that's for me that is almost like what's the word? I can't think of the word. It's going to annoy me now, but it's sort of it's more sentimental rather than for footballing reasons, in my humble opinion. But as I said, look back at the Oggy when Oggy signed. Obviously, we offered him a new deal this season, but the previous season, the only reason we signed that was because he was injured the season before, and people they felt a bit bad. And actually, we didn't even think he was going to get hardly any game time. But actually, to be honest, Oggy was pretty instrumental last season. Was when he was brought upon, he worked hard and was sort of a bit of a renaissance for him, really. And we never really saw that. We never assumed that was going to happen. We thought his legs had gone and that was it. We were going to hardly see him at all. But actually, he played quite a few games last season for us. Anyway, that's me. Let's be done. Keep an eye on the channel. We will try and give you as much info as and when things happen. And may even be a late show with Irish Tommy tonight. Who knows if he's not going to tip, because he's always going to tip. Tipperary. I heard it's a long way to go, but that's him. Take care, stay safe, stay warm, stay humble. Much love.